Thank you for staying with us and welcome to Our Views. My name is Agi Oase, and joining me today are the ladies to deliberate on a very interesting conversation that you definitely should be looking out for. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Agi.
Was that really fast? It looked like it wasn't expected.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So today we are talking about hypervisibility. You've probably heard of this word. You've gone through a few articles and you know what it means, but probably there's someone out there who doesn't know what it means. Now, according to Google, hypervisibility is associated with heightened scrutiny and surveillance. Where failures are magnified. If you fail, all your failures are magnified, and individuals lack control over how they are perceived by other people. Now, also hypervisibility, or being overly visible, reflects that when marginalized groups of people are seen, they are perceived as deviant, they are overly scrutinized, they are monitored for potential wrongdoing, and viewed only in terms of stereotypes. Yes. We are talking about the marginalized groups. Now, also, in 2019, they identified several visibility processes that were related to power and hierarchies, and that can be used to understand whether marginalized groups are rendered invisible or hyper-visible. Now, I'll give you an example. Most people who are usually overly visible or who are overly scrutinized, I'll talk about the people who identify as queer. I'll talk about black people. This has been, has happened in the recent past where, black people are always on the lookout for every single mistake you do, and especially the celebrities. Yes, you are criticized for every step you take. And here, meanwhile, they don't even recognize you. They're always looking out for the things that you do wrong. If you've ever heard of the saying that says, you could do everything right, but that one wrong thing is what people are always looking out for. But it's a sad reality that we live in. Now, the other people who are overly scrutinized, people of color, like I mentioned earlier, black people, and also you can be overly scrutinized because of your body type. You can be, I don't want to call them fat, that is bad, or I'll call them obese people. And also, if you are overly skinny, you're going to be scrutinized so much by people. And also, if you are in position of power, very much expected. If you're a president of the country, if you are the prime minister, whatever position of power you hold or office, you will be overly scrutinized by people, and that's what is referred to hypervisibility. So this puts you in a position where you have to be on your toes all the time, being very and extremely conscious about how you do. But this can also deter you from living your best life, because all the time you're thinking about how will people perceive me out there. Yes, I don't know if the ladies have been victims of over or hypervisibility. Well, I can say that at some point I was, but I overcame it and it doesn't faze me anymore. So my first question, no, before I share my experience, I want to ask you, have you found yourself in a situation of hypervisibility?
Someone trying to magnify
Yes.
and not so good. But I want to like pretty much understand. I think magnifying an aspect about someone that is not so nice, that is not considered good by a section of people, or is it like a general understanding that, okay, this is not acceptable?
It really depends, because if you look at people of color, I think even like in the recent past, even in workplaces, especially if you find yourself in if it's a workspace that's predominantly white people, barely, if there's that one black person, they will be overly scrutinized or hyper visible in that space. But if it's a predominantly black people environment or workspace, barely will you find, that one white person being overly, scrutinized. So yes, it's usually the marginalized groups of people, black people or people of color, and then queer people, those ones, the gay and lesbians, and also yes, you can just be that person who has a whole different body type from everyone, and yes, you're going to be. And if you are in the limelight, definitely celebrities, they are prone to this hypervisibility. So let's talk about bringing it back and making it a little bit easier. Yes. You as an individual, have you found yourself in a position where you've been hyper visible?
I actually don't think so, because when I look around, when I look at school, going through school, when I look at, from primary to secondary school to university and all that, and even in the work environment, I don't think I've worked with like white people or anything like that. So I haven't felt that sort of how would I call it? That sort of, you know, like I'm being scrutinized in now. I don't think I've experienced that. However, I think from your description and, you know, trying to break it down for us, I believe actually hypervisibility is as a result of white supremacy.
Yes.
It comes from those white people and they're trying to, you know, advance those things. So I mean, we look at the black people, we look at the black population in America, and you realize like how they're being put in this position at the expense of their white counterparts.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually experienced hypervisibility.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest.
Okay.
When it comes to the aspect of hypervisibility, I would like to put it in a way whereby people look at you, either how you look, your skin color, but do not look further beyond what you have to offer. For example, if it's in a workplace, like you mentioned, for example, if it's in a workplace and they're majorly white people, you, the black person, will be looked at, you're black, you're a dark skinned person, you're a black person. They're just looking at you for what you are on the top, but they are not looking at it as to what you have to offer, which is more as putting someone in a limelight, not for a good thing, but you see them as insignificant. Yes, you're literally magnifying them, but in a bad way, because you're scrutinizing them and you literally see that there is nothing good they can bring on table. So that is how I want to look at hypervisibility. Yes, I'm visible, but the only reason I am visible is because I am different, and according to the other party, I am different in a bad way. I am black, and they're whites. You know, I am a lame person. I'm not functioning well, but the other people are functioning well. So I'm being marginalized. I'm being scrutinized. I'm being put in the limelight, but not for what I can bring on the table, but because of what I present.
Yeah,
it's quite upsetting.
I think that's actually.
Well, it must. It sounds cruel. I'm
It
glad
is,
to have not like experienced it anyway.
So many people have found themselves in situations where you end up hating yourself because of your color, or even because of who you really are. Maybe even the position.
Would that be the reason?
Yes. Even the position. The other day we were talking about plastic surgery. You find yourself, you know, if you're a celebrity and they're looking at you like, look at this one.
No
you don't
bangs,
even
no
know.
nothing.
You're not fit enough to be a celebrity. So you find yourself going for plastic surgery and so many other. Well, for me, I say you can do it if you want to and if you can afford it. But anyway, let's talk about how can we recognize hypervisibility in our social settings, in our workplace settings, you know?
How can we recognize that? I think for me, I would take it from a more of, how would I call it? The direction or the angle of what a company would do, which would be having maybe like an HR money that is, you know, inclusive of everyone. Like, you know, everyone comes there to do their part. Let's say, I'm putting it like in a work setting. Everyone comes there to do their part. It's very inclusive. It's an inclusive working environment where like you're not even given a chance to sort of like express your, how would I would say racism to a greatest extent, or your dissatisfaction of, you know, how someone looks or how they do their things or anything like that. Like, you're just there to work. And I feel like the easiest way to handle that in a work environment is having an HR money that is, you know, really inclusive of everyone. But then also, we can also recognize hyper visibility in our societies by being, how would I call it? Not compassionate per se, but, you know, empathetic enough, so that, you know, understand that in this daily life that I'm going to, you know, be living, there's people that are going to be different. I'm going to find short people, I'm going to find tall people, I'm going to find small people. Why are you laughing? Because I said I'm going to find, you know, big guys, you know, I'm going to find small guys as well. Like, it's going to be different kinds of people. You're going to find light-skinned people, you're going to find beautiful, you know, melanin, you know, queens and kings. Like, there's going to be different people in society. So I think once you educate yourself and, you know, keep it in mind that we're going to be different, I think we can help identify that hypervisibility and actually put it down, like, you know, cross it out. Yes.
Okay.
When it comes to the question that Aki posed, I also want to look at it in the workplace setting. You see, sometimes I also think the perpetrators of this hypervisibility do it unknowingly. For example, let's take a look at different organizations in Uganda. How many of them have provisions for the disabled people? But guess what? When disabled people visit some of these companies, they're actually going through what they call hypervisibility, because everyone now is looking at them and how they're struggling to walk. Yet it would have been easier if there was a ramp. For example, they would wheel themselves up into the office, but now they're struggling up the stairs and you're literally marginalizing them, and all the trust me, Ugandans will look. They will look at you from head to toe as you suffer to walk. And I think in a way, we can do this by, like Priva said, by being inclusive. Let's also have these initiatives where the office is either accessible to both those that are able and even those that are disabled. Like, it shouldn't be an issue of how do you look, how are you dressed, what can you bring to the table, because at the end of the day, what is most important is, can you get the job done, not your color. Because at the end of the day, when we all, I'm sure everyone in this world, unless I'm mistaken, that when we all die, we go back to soil, unless you turn into porridge.
Soil. There's those that say, how do they
soil.
call it? A cremated what?
Oh, that they cremate.
Yeah, they cremated.
Still,
you know, in the
they
ocean.
go back to dust. Still, soil you come, dust you return, everything. So at the end of the day, we are all human beings, and we have, each of us have a beautiful trait to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
So, and actually, when I was looking, the few people that I have worked with, especially marginalized groups, they actually have a lot of knowledge and a lot of things to bring to the table. So
now let's bring it back, because I think we are now really taking a very serious stand.
Approach.
A serious approach, like Priva said. Let's bring it back to, you know, our normal or personal lives. You are on TV. I know that you probably both have been on radio before, and being a media personality comes with a lot of scrutiny rather, and if anything, overly scrutinized. Everything you do is like being put on a magnified glass to see how did she do it, how did she go about it, you know. It comes with a lot of you being very conscious about your life. So how do you think it has, being on TV, yes, let's talk about it, has it affected you in any way? Like being overly, have you found yourself in a situation of being overly scrutinized because of who you are and your job?
I think it's more of a how would I call it, self-inflicted.
you yourself, like,
you
you
yourself, you're
think
thinking,
about
you
it
know
and you're
what?
like,
If I'm going to jump on this, board, I should probably have my shades on, or you know.
But I'll still
Like, it's
see
more
you.
like self-induced. I think if you look at it from my, I'm looking at it from my, perspective. I feel like it's more of, self-induced as opposed to, people out there. I mean, like, the love that I've received so far is, people, I saw you on TV. Oh, no, that's good. You're doing amazing. I've watched you this whole week. Those are the comments that I receive. But I feel like that did not put me in a situation or in a position where I'm thinking, oh my God, could they be looking at this? Could they be thinking I'm good enough? How about how I look on TV? How about how I dress? How about how I talk? Like, I don't think about those things yet.
Really?
I do not. I do not
Okay,
think.
I have a question for you after. But
on
should
the
I go on?
you talked about border, and this incident actually happened just outside our CTV gate, and I remember I even shared the video in our CTV group. But I was getting on a judge back then. I was getting on it with a friend who we used to do the show with, and then this guy told me, Nyabo, kola ku CTV. Then I'm like, yes. And we watched you in the morning today. Even those were the clothes that you were in. So we said, okay.
Goodness.
Meanwhile, all this time we had been bargaining. So the guy asked me, but how can you be on TV and you are bargaining for Nkumitano? And I'm like, but there's a, like,
you shouldn't take over my normal life,
what
like what a
makes
normal
you
Ugandan
think that
would
just
do?
because I am on TV, I cannot be a normal Ugandan and eat a Chikomando and a Rolex? That doesn't take anything away from me. But unfortunately, that is the society we live in. I mean, you were saying that you have not yet like gotten that thing of, people. I remember there's a time I actually went to Nakawa Market still again, and this woman told me, she was telling me, you're a beautiful lady and all these things, and you're on TV, you should settle down and get married. Told her, but don't you see the rest of the people you work with already are settled? And I'm like, so now people are comparing me and someone else that I'm working with. I mean, we all have our different achievements. I mean, marriage may not be the one-time thing that may happen to me. It may not be something that I'm thinking about. But however, the public views it that you need to settle down, you need to get married, and now there's all of a sudden everyone has a say in my life. Very soon they'll start telling me, your nails are not done. Change the hair.
I think we are very much perceptible or prone to this because, I mean, you're out there and people have high expectations of you. They expect you to have all the money in the world. They expect you to have a car. They expect you to change your hair literally every week. They expect you to have your nails done. They expect you to dress a certain way. I'll tell you, well, for me, I actually don't want people to recognize me, to be honest.
Sure.
If I encounter people who tell me, oh my goodness, I saw you on TV, I'll try to avoid that route as much as I can. Because there are those moments when you're fresh from bed and you just want to go to a supermarket in, I almost say
joggers,
pajamas, but not
what?
pajamas, joggers, and a tee, and your hair is not done. And you want to be able to be free and do whatever you have to do. But then you encounter this person who said, oh, I saw you on TV. Now you know that they expected to probably see you with makeup on and all that.
But
it's a lot of pressure. But Priva said she has not
question
gone
for me.
through that, that experience. I remember yesterday we were talking, and he said there is a certain lady who met you and said, I see you on TV, and in that moment, you didn't feel you looked
My
your
best version,
Yes.
But I think it was, again, still, I feel like it was more self-induced. Because, you know, like the way she was talking about, she was like, I saw you on TV. I even watched the next day and I still saw you. Like, she kept talking about the TV. Like, she didn't even pay attention to, you know, how I was looking or what I was dressed. She didn't even care about my joggers.
Didn't feel a certain way, like,
she didn't care about
my
my joggers. But then now me, inward, I was like, oh, no. If people are now starting to, you know, recognize me out there, it's high time that I, you know, pay attention into, you know,
step up.
Yeah, put into like thoughts, what I do, how I look, and all those things. Even if it's like on a random Sunday, because this was, I mean, like a weekend. But even on a random Sunday, like this thing, you will be like, from that experience, at least I know people are easily going to recognize me, so I have to, you know, dress a certain way. Even when I'm moving out, even if it's just to, you know, do some errands, I still have to look a certain type of way. But I feel like still, it's not on the people out there. It's me who is, you know, putting myself on pressure.
The pressure, I understand, yes, that is true.
Thinking, people,
what are people thinking
going to
of
say?
me?
What are they going to do? What are they? Yeah, so it's more of like me putting myself on pressure to make sure that I look presentable enough for what I think they want to see.
Adding on to what Priva has said, like she said, most times this pressure actually comes from us. I gave an example some time back here on our views, and I was saying I used to fear, like when I would finish eating in my high school, I would never get up and take my plate. I would wait for, you know, a large group of people to be getting up, then I also get up. And then I realized that every single time I used to get up alone, no one would actually turn to look at me. It was just me putting myself under pressure that I had to walk and look a certain type of way. And I'm like, why am I putting myself on pressure? But I think I have learned, ever since I started my media journey, I have learned to be intentional. What you see on air is exactly what you will get out. Exactly. Like I will have a life here on air, you will see me with makeup, but on a Sunday I am going for shopping and I am going to a window market. Trust me, you'll find me in my gumboots with my border and I am doing shopping, and it won't change a thing for me. And the next time on Monday I will be here and present to the nation.
Yes, and deliver.
Sometimes you just have to live your truth, and the moment you show people this is who I am, either you deal with it or, you know, they'll be able to accept you for the way you are. But I will defer and say that sometimes it's self-inflicted, but sometimes it's the pressure from the outside world. I'll give you a very vivid example. Meghan Markle. Look at her. Every step she takes, every move she makes. You know, looking at the pictures of the Queen's burial and the whole entire process, you could see that she was literally either traumatized or, you know, frustrated. You know, like she knows the public is looking at everything she does. How did she, you know, how do they call it? I think courtesy for the Queen. How did she move? What hat was she wearing? What dress was she wearing? How was she walking? Was Prince Harry holding her hand? Oh, she's not a confident woman. Look at Kate. Exactly. Look at Kate. Kate was walking by herself. So yes, that also puts a lot of pressure on you. I remember Prince Harry saying that there's, in one of the interviews, that there's a time when Meghan Markle was pregnant with her first child, she felt like she wanted to take her life. She told her husband that, and yet in that same night, they were supposed to make a royal appearance somewhere and be all smiles. Imagine you're in a situation where you feel you want to take your life because of all the pressure out there, what the tabloids are saying about you, especially the Daily Mail. That one is very toxic. Very toxic. But still you have to go out there and smile, because that's what you're supposed to do.
You see, that's the thing. That is what you're supposed to do. But if at that point, you see, I don't live, I have learned not to live to please people. If I am not in the mood to show up, I will not show up, because either way, either I'll be a party pooper, or I will just be a Debbie Downer. You see? So I would rather stay at home and completely not show up for an event or anything I've been invited to, because for how long will you fake it until you make it? This is the reason as to why people are dying of depression, because they are being put in the spotlight, but at the same time you're scrutinizing them. Like, make it make sense.
But you see, also some of our people are also doing these things to us. I'm going to take a look at maybe like the film industry. Black trauma is being, you know, used in movies and series and all that to sell, but is it actually helping anyone? It's not helping anyone, but even us, we're our own enemy. The marginalized communities, like they like to put it. I don't believe so, because what's different between me and a white person? We all have blood flowing through the veins. I don't get it.
But I think you can be intimidated and frustrated
even
sometimes.
us, our own people are letting us down, because they are here they are magnifying the bad things about the black community, or you know, just advancing trauma, black traumas. but what are you helping? Instead of just letting people know that, you know what, these are the points you can hit these guys at.
Yeah.
This is where you can find them.
I
So,
think sometimes you can actually be confident and overcome it, but sometimes you're put in a situation where it's a do or die situation. I've seen stories on social media about black people who are living in predominantly white setups areas, and you're even afraid of, you know, taking a run or a stroll through the street because they will call the police on you any minute, so you can't even live your life fully. And going back to the issue of Meghan Markle, yes, some of us have the leverage, you know, to say I cannot do this, but imagine these are royal duties. You have to do it for as long as you are a working royal.
Then that means
so
there's a problem already within the royal system,
that is
because
why,
if someone has to show up when they are unwell or when they are not mentally stable, that alone shows that there is a red flag in a system. Like, why should I have to show up?
That's the reason
Absolutely.
why.
So that the monarchy should also go.
That's the reason why Harry and Meghan had to make a very difficult decision to leave, you know, the UK and go to the US. But it hasn't come easy for them. But anyway, recognizing and preventing the strain of hypervisibility. Now, members of marginalized communities experience the distress of hypervisibility in the workplace and beyond the feeling of being overly visible because of an individual's race or ethnicity, sometimes to the point of overshadowing your unique skills and personality. You'll find you can't live to your full potential. Even at work, you're afraid of doing certain things because you know you're being overly scrutinized, you're scared of how they'll perceive you and what they will say about you behind your back, so it can be very disturbing. Now, also they do say research shows that this type of extreme focus on skin color, especially in the workplace, instead of the substance of the professional in the context of the relevant business, that's what Siobhan talked about, can sometimes detract you or that person from due recognition, being rewarded, and cultivation of employees. Now we are talking about the workplace setting, distinct talents. You can be a technician and you cannot even do your work to your full potential. Now these are some of the key takeaways if you find yourself in a position of hypervisibility in a workspace. Now, first of all, it can be very traumatic, so you should know that so that you know how to go about it. Now, Alina Addison, the founder of Adapter, and is an executive coaching and leadership development company specializing in emotional intelligence, encouraged attendees who attended that particular conference to participate in a poll which asked participants to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how hypervisible they have felt in the past 6 months. Now, more than 40% submitted a rating of 8, 9, and 10. More than 40%, yes. Now, also many participants shared how this extreme level of hypervisibility has made them feel, and they're not being recognized as individuals. So you find yourself in a position where Siobhan talked about, you want to move alongside other people. You cannot be your true authentic self besides other people. You want to be taken up in the group, and before you know it, no one will even see you for who you are. And also the other thing is, if hypervisibility has you feeling overwhelmed, especially at work, it's okay to speak up. Tell your employees, tell your immediate supervisor, if they can call a meeting and maybe see how they can talk about it with the other people who are perpetrators of this, and see how to go about it so that you can do your work at peace. And don't find yourself in a position where you have to quit your well-paying or good job for that reason. And the other one is, it's crucial to find balance between your day job and diversity and inclusion at your work or your company. Now, this is an article, and they say Black Lives Matter movement has gained momentum over the years. Now, companies are increasingly turning to their Black employees for guidance on how to drive conversations around race and ethnicity. But as we wind up, just 1 second, don't you think that Black people are now being used? Okay, yes, there's hypervisibility, but I think they're being used at the moment, you know, to, it could be marketing, it could be anything. Others actually taking advantage, especially makeup companies. The other day they put out a Barbie doll because they know if they put it out there, then Black people are going to buy it. Could be Crocs, could be anything. Don't you think so?
Well, I don't think, I would say 50-50. Actually, I think black people actually being used, but it's for a greater cause.
Yeah.
It can go both ways. The positivity that you just, talked about and mentioned, it has brought up a conversation about or around the inclusiveness, in a work environment or in any other society.
Yes.
To begin with. But when you look at the downside, like I mentioned earlier on, people are using black traumas to project what exactly is happening in the black communities, and it's always in the negative light. You're the one who talks
Yes.
about reality shows and how much you hate them. That's
Yes,
an
yes,
example
yes.
of hypervisibility, things that are happening in the ghettos, bringing them on TV and trying to normalize them when
Yeah.
it's actually crazy.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with what Priva is saying. And yes, this is a conversation that I think we should revisit sometime because we haven't really exhausted it as much. Well, that is all we had for you on the segment of Our Views. Do connect with us on our socials, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Let us know what you think of hypervisibility. Keep watching Sunrise at Sea and don't blink.
Well, it's exactly 9 a.m., which means it's time to say goodbye. Of course, like I said earlier, when I did promise you an amazing show, and I hope that you have had an amazing time, right from the hour of 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. In regard to the conversation that we had in hypervisibility, this is what I would have to say. Do not be a perpetrator of hypervisibility. The way you can do it is by forming an ally. If I am black and you are white, do not make it harder for me to live in a society of white people, and neither will I make it hard for you to live in a society of black people. So it's a two-way street. Let's compromise and learn to be inclusive in every single thing that we do. Otherwise, as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and anything that is amazing and beautiful gets done while it's still hot. And that is why it's time to say goodbye from the ladies and I, and of course from the team behind the scenes. We wish you an amazing Tuesday. Until next time, don't blink.